I feel like everybody makes EV charging way too overcomplicated, but today let's make it super simple and talk about the four main pieces to the puzzle to explain it all. All right, when I was first starting out, figuring out this EV charging thing, honestly, I was lost. It was so hard to figure out, like, okay, well, I know there's a charger, but what happens with the electricity or I know electricians are involved and isn't there the EV charging company? Like, there's so many little different moving parts that it's easy to get lost in the weeds. But if you just zoom out and take a bird's eye view and look at everything, once you get an idea of the categories, then everything that comes out at you, you can kind of go, okay, yeah, that goes into this category. All right, so we're going to go through this as if we're installing our own project. So everything you need to do in order. And going from the top of the list of the four, we're going to start with install. So people use the term infrastructure, the EV charging infrastructure, but I don't know why I'm using so many air quotes, but this is just a term that really boils down to a few things. And when I think of the install, the first thing that comes to mind is the conduit. And all conduit is, I know you've seen it, everybody's seen it. It's really just the metal casing that houses the wires. And installing the conduit is such a huge part of the cost of the install, because if you can imagine, the electrician needs to get all the conduit and run it along the walls, make sure it's mounted. They have to bend it so it wraps around whatever's on the walls. That's going to take a while, right? So it's the labor hours. And this is why I always say it's great to have the electrical room close to where the chargers are going, because that means a short run. Every time you have to go through something or past something, the price just goes up. So the installation is the first main puzzle piece, and it's probably the biggest one in terms of the cost. All right, next is the software. And the way that I kind of think about this is the brain. This is the brain that controls all the different EV chargers. The chargers are kind of like the body, I guess, and the brain is the software. So the brain is actually the smartest part. And the brain, obviously, just like in a human being, you can't do much with the chargers or the body without the brain. And when it comes to the software, you can also call this the network. I kind of like to also think about this like a cell phone, right? A cell phone's great. It can do cool things, but if it's not connected to a cell service provider or a network, then I mean, it's pretty limited. You can't do much. This is usually step number 2. So once you have your install set up, then I would go and figure out the software next, because usually you can actually order your chargers from the software provider, and the software provider will tell you what to look out for, how everything's going to be set up, how much it costs per month to manage the chargers. They'll handle all the fees, the payments, the processing. They can take care of the chargers on the back end so they can see, oh yeah, that charger's down. Like, we got to reboot it and connect it back to the network. The software is such a big part. And I've mentioned them a few times, but my favorite software provider is a company called ChargeLab, and I can help you out and connect you with them if you'd like. Also, before I forget, I've created some packages of success that have so much great, valuable information, and I've linked them below if you want to check those out. This is information that I wish someone told me or I had when I was doing my first EV charging projects. And I have one for entrepreneurs, and I also have one for condo buildings. So check those out below. All right, next is the EV chargers themselves. So a lot of people, when they think of EV charging, they think of the EV chargers, right? But honestly, the chargers themselves are probably the least important part of this entire thing. The chargers are almost just like, they're like the contraption that the electricity flows through. I've had some clients say, oh, well, this spot has really bad chargers or they're super slow. What if we can just take them over and switch their chargers out for our chargers? They'll be way faster. But the thing is, the actual chargers actually has very little to do with how fast they are. It's all about the power that's going into the chargers. So if the building only has a limited amount of power, then it's not going to matter if you switch out the brand of the charger. It's still the same amount of power that's being pumped in. But that being said, you don't want to buy some, really poor quality chargers. If they're going to break, then they're definitely not going to be good. And a big part of chargers being good or not good is their ability to stay connected to the network or the software. And the last piece of the puzzle is the electricity. And when I say electricity, it's the utility provider. We're going to put rebates in there and how much you're paying for the electricity, how much you're able to bill out for using the electricity. But it's not like you can just go, oh yeah, let's pump, the maximum amount into this charger. It also really has to do with how much power you have in the building. So believe it or not, a lot of these buildings, whether you're an entrepreneur or in a condo building, you're probably going to have enough power for these chargers. I mean, depends on a few things like how old the building is. If you're installing like 500 chargers, then yeah, you're probably going to have to upgrade your electrical system. And the electricity is directly tied to the money because that's essentially the product that we're selling, right? We're selling electricity. So now we got our four main pieces of the puzzle. Now, anything that you hear about EV charging can fall into those categories and it'll be smooth sailing. And it's just being crickets in my comment section. So I'm curious if you would ever consider starting your own EV charging business. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below.